The city woke up to another cold winter morning. The sun was barely peeking through thick gray clouds in the sky. On a narrow street with old, broken buildings, a small figure moved under piles of torn blankets. It was Lily, a 9-year-old girl, wearing a big coat that was too big for her and not enough to keep her warm in the freezing cold. She woke up shivering, her tiny body curled up on a piece of cardboard that she used as a bed. The hard concrete ground was her home, and hunger was always with her. Her shoes were too big, the laces frayed and falling apart. They were a reminder of how hard her life was. Her coat, old and faded, didn't help much against the cold. Lily slowly sat up, her body stiff from the chill. She rubbed her eyes and brushed off some snow that had fallen on her during the night. The cold air hurt her lungs as she breathed in, and her stomach growled loudly, reminding her that she hadn't eaten in days. With a sigh, Lily got up and slowly walked to a nearby trash can. She hoped to find something to eat. She searched through the garbage, moving aside empty cans and dirty papers, but there was nothing. Feeling sad and tired, she wrapped her coat tighter around herself and began walking down the street. Her mind wandered to the days when she had a home and parents who loved her. Those memories felt far away now, blurry from the harsh life on the streets. Her parents had died in an accident when she was just 5, and her aunt had taken care of her. But the aunt treated her badly, so a year ago, Lily ran away. Now the streets were both her shelter and her prison. As she walked, tears started to form in her eyes. She was so tired and sad. Suddenly, a smell reached her nose. It was the smell of warm food, making her stomach growl even louder. She looked up and saw that she was standing in front of a fancy restaurant. The door was slightly open, and the delicious scent of roasted meat and fresh bread was coming from inside. Lily stood there for a moment, staring at the people inside. Through the window, she could see people sitting at tables with white tablecloths. They had full plates of food and were laughing and talking. They were wearing nice clothes, and everything looked so warm and happy. It was a world that felt so different from hers, a world where hunger and cold were not problems. Her stomach growled again, louder this time. Lily knew she didn't belong in that world. She was dirty, her clothes were too big, and she smelled like the streets. She was sure that if she went inside, people would kick her out right away. But her hunger was stronger than her fear. So she gathered her courage, opened the door, and stepped inside. As soon as she entered, the warmth of the restaurant surrounded her. It was so different from the cold outside. The chandeliers above sparkled, and the shiny silverware on the tables looked so beautiful. The sound of people talking and laughing filled the air, and Lily felt out of place. She hesitated at the door, her eyes wide with both fear and wonder. She felt everyone staring at her. She could hear the whispers and see the looks of surprise on their faces. Her heart was pounding as she slowly walked deeper into the restaurant, trying to hide her nervousness. The people at the tables were all enjoying their food, far away from the struggles Lily faced every day. She felt small and invisible as she walked past them. Her heart raced faster when she reached a table where a family was eating. It looked like a feast and it smelled so good. "Excuse me," Lily said quietly, her voice shaking. "Could I please have some food?" Her eyes were filled with hope, and she pulled her coat tighter around herself. The room went silent for a moment. Everyone stopped talking and stared at her. Whispers filled the air, some filled with shock and some with disgust. A man at a nearby table looked angry and said something under his breath. Then a boy, no older than Lily, looked up from his plate and saw her. He seemed to understand how hungry she was. He tugged at his mom's sleeve and whispered, "Mommy, can we give her something to eat?" But the mother quickly shushed him, her eyes darting nervously around, as if she didn't want anyone to hear. She didn't want to help. An elderly woman sat nearby, watching the scene with a worried look on her face. She looked like she wanted to stand up, but when her companion gave her a stern look, she stayed in her seat. The waiter, a tall man dressed in a clean uniform, walked over to Lily with quick, firm steps. His face was serious. When he reached her, he said in a low, firm voice, "This isn't a place for begging. You need to leave." Lily's eyes filled with tears. She opened her mouth to speak, but stopped. "Please, sir, I haven't eaten in days. Just some bread, anything," she said quietly. Before she could finish, the waiter grabbed her arm, holding it tightly but not hurting her. "You must go now," he said, pulling her toward the door. The people in the restaurant were watching them, some looking relieved and others looking at Lily with disgust as they saw her being pushed out. As they reached the door, a man from the table Lily had tried to speak to shouted, "Make sure she doesn't come back. We can't have beggars disturbing our meals." His voice was full of hate. The waiter pushed Lily outside, and the door shut with a soft thud. The warmth and light from the restaurant were gone, replaced by the cold, harsh winter air. Lily stumbled onto the pavement, feeling the sharp cold. The laughter and conversation from inside continued as if nothing had happened. Lily stood alone, her breath coming out in little clouds of mist in the freezing air. Her stomach hurt with hunger, and the cold made it worse. She looked back at the restaurant, its windows glowing with light, a world far away from where she stood. With no place to go and no one to help, Lily huddled against the cold stone wall of the restaurant. Her jacket was too thin to protect her from the cold. She pressed her face against the glass of the restaurant window, staring inside at the warm, happy people eating their food. She didn't see herself in the reflection. She saw a sad, lost girl who didn't belong there. It made her feel even more alone. The warm inside of the restaurant seemed so far away, like it was in another world. As she sat there, trying to stay warm, she heard a noise from a nearby alley. She turned and saw a dirty stray dog. The dog was pulling something out of a trash can. Lily felt her stomach twist when she saw that the dog had found a fish, probably thrown away from the same restaurant. The fish was half-eaten and rotten, but to Lily, it looked like food. Her hunger made her want to rush over and take the food from the dog. She could almost taste it, but then she stopped. She watched the dog struggle to get the fish free from the trash. It was as hungry as she was. She couldn't bring herself to take the food away from the dog. "No, I can't," she whispered softly. "I just can't." She stood there watching the dog eat, her heart aching with both hunger and kindness. "Enjoy it, little friend," she said quietly. "You need it just as much as I do." As she said these words, she realized that even though she had nothing, not even a meal, she still had kindness inside her. She could still care for others, even if life was hard. That was something no one could take from her. Lily sighed and wrapped her arms around herself. She looked back at the restaurant, where the people were still eating and laughing, not knowing what had just happened. She felt even more alone, but at the same time, she felt a small sense of pride. She was hungry, but she had kept her kindness and dignity. Just then, the owner of the restaurant, Mr. Samuel Grant, was in the back of the restaurant. He had heard about the trouble caused by Lily and was curious. He walked to the front and saw her sitting on the sidewalk outside, wrapped in her thin coat, looking so small and lonely. He felt a wave of emotions that he couldn't explain. Something about her reminded him of his own past. When Mr. Samuel was a child, he didn't have much. His family was poor, and there were many nights when he went to bed hungry. Now, as a successful restaurant owner, he had forgotten about those hard times. But seeing Lily brought it all back. He remembered the hunger and the cold, just like she was feeling now. Mr. Samuel made a decision. He couldn't change his past, but maybe he could help Lily. He walked back to his office, feeling determined. After a moment, he left his office and went back through the restaurant, heading for the front door. He walked outside and saw Lily sitting on the sidewalk, still huddled against the cold. "Hello there," he said gently, not wanting to scare her. Lily looked up, surprised. She tried to move away, but she was too weak. She couldn't go far. "Please don't be afraid," Mr. Samuel said softly. "I'm not here to hurt you." Mr. Samuel's voice was low and soothing as he spoke. "I saw you from inside, and it seemed like you could use a helping hand." Lily, still unsure and a little afraid, watched him with doubt in her eyes. "Why would you want to help me?" she asked softly, her voice barely more than a whisper. Her disbelief was clear in her tone. Mr. Samuel crouched down to her level, looking directly into her eyes. "Because I've been where you are now," he said with a calm, steady voice. "I know what it feels like to be hungry and cold. A long time ago, I made a promise to myself that if I ever had the chance, I would help someone who was in the same situation. And now, I can help you." Lily blinked back tears, surprised by his kindness. It was so different from the harsh world she had known. Here was a man who owned a big, successful restaurant, yet he was sharing a piece of his past with her, his own struggles, which mirrored her present. The warmth in his voice made her feel something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. She hadn't been treated this kindly in ages. "Can you stand?" Mr. Samuel asked, offering his hand to her. Lily hesitated for just a moment, but then, feeling the genuine concern in his eyes, she placed her cold, trembling hand in his. With gentle strength, he helped her to her feet. She stumbled slightly, but he held her steady. "Let's get you somewhere warm," he said softly, guiding her away from the cold streets and toward the warmth of the restaurant. As they walked back through the entrance, Mr. Samuel felt something inside him shift. This was more than just helping a stranger. It was a second chance, not just for Lily, but for himself too. This could be the moment he had been waiting for to mend something deep within him, a piece of his past that needed healing. Maybe by helping Lily, he could reshape her future, and perhaps, in doing so, heal some of his own pain. Inside the restaurant, the warmth hit her like a wave, and Lily couldn't help but look around, her eyes wide. She was in a whole new world now, so different from the cold street she had come from. Mr. Samuel led her through the busy kitchen, where the scent of baking bread and simmering sauces filled the air. He passed by curious glances from his staff, but didn't mind. This was more important than what anyone else thought. He led her to a quiet corner of the kitchen, where a small table was set up, away from the hustle and bustle of the cooking staff. "Sit here, Lily. I'll get you something to eat," he said in a voice that was both comforting and fatherly. Lily sat down, still a little unsure, but the warmth of the room made her feel safe. She watched as Mr. Samuel moved around the kitchen, preparing a plate of food just for her. He piled it high with warm, hearty food, and when he brought it over, he smiled kindly. "Eat as much as you need," he said. The food was simple but delicious, far better than anything Lily had eaten in a long time. She ate slowly at first, overwhelmed by the flavors and the kindness she had received. But soon, her hunger took over, and she ate with a quiet eagerness, savoring every bite. She hadn't realized just how hungry she had been until now. Mr. Samuel watched her quietly, his heart heavy with memories of his own hard days. He had been there in a place of hunger and cold, but now he was in a position to make a difference for someone else. He felt a deep sense of satisfaction, but also a quiet concern as he looked at Lily. She had been through so much, and there was so much more she needed: love, security, safety. When Lily finished eating, Mr. Samuel stood and gently asked, "Now let's get you somewhere more comfortable." He led her outside to a sleek car waiting by the curb. The cool night air made her shiver, but the warmth of the car soon surrounded her as they began the drive to his mansion. The drive was silent except for the soft hum of the engine. Lily gazed out the window, her mind filled with wonder. She had never seen this part of the city before, so beautiful and peaceful. It felt like a dream to her. When they arrived at the mansion, Mr. Samuel helped her inside. The grandeur of the place made her feel small, but she couldn't help but be amazed. It was so different from the cramped, cold spaces she had known. He led her upstairs to a bathroom where a bathtub was already filled with warm water and bubbles. "This is all for you, Lily," he said gently. "Take your time and relax. You deserve it." Lily was hesitant at first, unsure of what to do, but she slowly approached the tub. She touched the bubbles and then dipped her fingers into the warm water. A smile spread across her face as she realized how soothing it felt. For the first time in a long time, she could relax. She could feel safe. After her bath, Mr. Samuel gave her a soft, fluffy towel and led her to a bedroom. The room was large and beautifully decorated, with soft pillows and a comfortable bed. She had never seen anything like it before. "For your first night here," Mr. Samuel said, handing her a teddy bear. "In case you need someone to hold." Lily's eyes filled with tears as she hugged the teddy bear tightly. She hadn't realized how much she needed something like this until now. "Thank you, Mr. Samuel," she whispered, overwhelmed by his kindness. "It's Samuel," he said gently, his voice filled with affection. "And you're welcome. You're safe here." That night, Lily lay in her new bed, holding the teddy bear close. The quiet of the room was so different from the noise of the streets she was used to. She whispered a prayer of thanks for Samuel before drifting off to sleep, feeling warmth and peace she had never felt before. Weeks passed, and Lily's life began to change. She wasn't the scared, hungry child she had been. She had found a family, and she was starting to trust again. She laughed more, played more, and was filled with a happiness she hadn't known was possible. One sunny afternoon, Samuel's children, Paolo and Marie, decided it was time for Lily to learn something new. They were going to teach her how to ride a bicycle. It seemed like such a simple thing, but to Lily, it was a big step in her journey. In the big courtyard, Paolo adjusted the seat of a small blue bicycle to fit Lily's height. "Ready to give it a try?" he asked, his smile encouraging. Lily nodded, her heart thumping with excitement and a little bit of nervousness. Marie stood next to her, ready to catch her if she fell. "Don't worry, Lily," she reassured her. "We'll be right here with you. You're going to love it." With one sibling on each side, Lily took her first tentative pedals. At first, the bike wobbled, and she gasped, but Paolo's steady hand on her shoulder kept her from falling. "You're doing great," he cheered. After a few rounds of wobbling and giggling, Lily found her balance. She was riding by herself, and the feeling was amazing. The wind in her hair and the freedom of gliding across the courtyard made her laugh with joy. It wasn't just about learning to ride a bike. It was a symbol of her new life, learning to balance, to move forward, and to find freedom in a world full of love and safety. One bright morning, Lily woke up with excitement in her heart. Today was her birthday. She had never really celebrated it before, as she had been too focused on surviving each day. But today, everything was different. Samuel had told her that there would be a party with cake and presents. It was something she had never dreamed of. Samuel smiled as he greeted her that morning. "Good morning, Lily. Are you ready to be the birthday princess?" he asked with a loving smile. Lily's face lit up. "Yes. Do you think anyone will come to my party?" "Of course," Samuel said, his voice warm and reassuring. "Everyone is excited to celebrate with you, and there's a special surprise waiting for you downstairs." Lily quickly dressed in a beautiful sky blue dress that Samuel had given her. Hand in hand, they went downstairs to the sound of cheerful greetings. The living room had been transformed into a festive space with balloons, streamers, and the delicious smell of cake filling the air. When they walked in, everyone cheered, "Happy birthday, Lily." The party was full of laughter, games, and love. Lily felt like she belonged, and it made her heart soar with happiness. When the cake was brought out, Samuel whispered, "Make a wish, Lily." Lily closed her eyes and thought for a moment. She didn't wish for toys or gifts. She simply wanted to say thank you for everything that had changed in her life. She blew out the candles, and everyone clapped and cheered. As the party wound down, Samuel pulled Lily aside. "How do you feel?" he asked, looking into her eyes with deep care. "I feel happy, really happy," Lily said, her voice full of joy and sincerity. "Samuel, can I call you Dad?" Tears filled Samuel's eyes as he hugged her tightly. "Yes, Lily, I'd like that very much." That night, as Lily lay in her soft bed, she realized that this birthday wasn't just about growing older. It was about the new life she had found, a life full of love, safety, and belonging. She was no longer the forgotten child of the streets. She was Lily Samuel, a beloved daughter. She whispered a thank you into the quiet room and held her teddy bear close, knowing that her life had changed forever. If you enjoyed this story and would like to see more content like it, I encourage you to subscribe to my channel. By subscribing, you'll stay updated on all our latest, inspiring, and heartwarming stories and have the opportunity to engage with our growing community. Additionally, I would love to hear your thoughts and feedback in the comment section below. Thank you for your support, and I look forward to sharing more captivating narratives with you.